All right, everyone. Merkel's inept government is making the same mistakes that the Republicans and Social Democrats did in the early 1930s during the Weimar Republic days of Germany. And basically, Germany has become a giant powder keg waiting to explode. Here's what's happening now. Alternative for Deutschland, the AfD. Center-right party that gets called very, very far-right, like Nazis, which is funny because the Nazis were indeed literally socialistic. They're called a far-right movement, but really what they're saying is, hey, we're tired of the incline in crime and poverty and other problems as the result of limitless migrant movements across the EU. We need to stop this. They've become a major force within German politics, of course. Between 10 and 15% of the German public in most parts of Germany supports them. In their sort of native I can't remember which part of Germany they originally formed in, but in the most blighted part of Germany, I think it's approaching a quarter of the population supporting them. And Bavaria, I think it's quickly rising too, to the point where they're separatist movements now. A lot of people, probably like 10 million, 20 million Germans support AfD. I bet that the actual number is higher, and that actually a lot of people just don't want to publicly come out and support them because they get called Nazis when they do, or they get attacked, by liberals or whatever. What's happened is the German government now wants to conduct surveillance on the AfD. Now, this is a little bit like what happened in Weimar Germany. You'll remember, Adolf himself, how did he get involved with the Nazi Party back in the 1930s? Oh, that's right. Originally, he was sent there to spy on their meetings. He was a Republican. And a Republican in the sense of Weimar Germany doesn't mean the same as a Republican here today. It's basically the centrist party at the time. And then the Social Democrats are like kind of liberal reformers. But those two movements, they controlled German politics at the time, Weimar politics. That's what happened. Adolf himself was initially a Republican. He was sent to go spy on Nazi meetings because the establishment started getting nervous because social stress over the Treaty of Versailles, among other things, was causing little groups to proliferate that said, hey, why should we have had to disband half our military and hold back our industry and, we've got a potato patch economy? We should be an industrial muscle. We should have a larger sway on the world stage. You have like the British and the French are off building these massive empires, and we're this one small European nation that's shackled by this treaty for something that happened, several decades ago at that time. And so movements began to spring up, fundamentally questioning that status quo. The establishment got nervous. When the Nazis had like a few thousand members, they send Adolf in. He ends up joining their party because what he hears, he's like, that actually sounds pretty good to him at the time, I suppose. At the same time, you've got communist movements, which you have in Germany indeed today, and other far-left groups as well. It wasn't just those two groups. They just happened to be the ones that rose to most prominence. But they conducted surveillance on these movements. If you conduct surveillance on AfD, they get a cheap talking point, and they can come to the German people and say, hey, no, look, they're even spying on us. They're spying on 15% of the German population, 10 to 15% roughly. They think that there's something wrong with us. Where's their surveillance of people that are blowing themselves up in a shopping mall? And that will be a very, very good talking point for their platform campaigning, and they will continue to grow. It's just what'll happen. It's not going to defeat them. It's like the German government doesn't have the balls to do the only thing that actually would suppress them, which is to slaughter them all. Or to throw them all into gulags or something, and then you'd, of course, be under communism. The same is true of suppressing the far left. What are you going to do about all those communists in Germany? Unless you're willing to kill them or throw them all into work camps, you should shut up about the issue and let things happen as they will. The thing is, the establishment is always its own worst enemy. No establishment ever died because some outside group in a vacuum began challenging their power. It just doesn't fucking happen. There has to be an internal stressor, and that can only come from the present establishment. That's the only place that it's capable of coming from. So the German establishment is sitting there worried about the far left and the far right are growing up on both sides. A quarter of the German population supports groups that 5 years ago we labeled extremist. A quarter of the fucking German population. Now, are they actually extremist, or is that just a propagandistic talking point? I look at AfD, no, they're not extremist. They want to close the border to continued migratory movement in a country that is densely populated and beginning to experience significant social stress because of limitless migration. That's the long and short of it. That is not an extremist platform. It has nothing to do with totalitarian ideology. It has nothing to do with Nazis or Hitler or fascism. The real fascism of today is the politically correct bullshit club, which is championed by people like Merkel. Angela Merkel gets continuously applauded by the U.S. establishment too as some sort of arbiter of all wisdom, the champion of the West. She's the most powerful woman in the world. Her country is falling apart. The political situation in Germany is degrading at a rapid pace. That will not stop unless the establishment there begins to try to reform the situation. Merkel coming out and saying, oh, we might need to consider a burqa ban is not enough. But the Merkel doesn't have the ability. Merkel is ultimately an old-style corporate politician. She's controlled by businesses that want more migrant labor, and they will never allow her to actually stop the situation. They're also all Europhiles. The European Union isn't just Angela Merkel. There are plenty of other rich, corrupt, bought-out individuals that want to continue stressing the people of Western Europe. They're never going to stop. The EU will implode, and or Germany will implode. The UK is practically imploded already. If you look at their political situation, it's arguably no better. Even their far left is run by a dude who gets called an anti-Semite. And their right-wing movement gets led by a woman who can't govern. So they've got some problems. You need to have Nigel Farage as Prime Minister. No, the Queen should just appoint him. The Queen should say enough is enough. Nigel Farage is going to lead the country now. I'm fucking banning the labor movement because you people suck so badly. I'm banning the Tories because, you're not doing anything right. Now, fuck you all, basically. We're going back to a situation of nobility. You'd probably be better governed if the royal family just took the reins of power again in the UK. I'm not even joking about that. Your parliament is so fucked up. The people that run it are so corrupt. Having a symbolic monarchy might actually be a better idea. It's really that shitty. Germany, the establishment there apparently just wants to destroy itself. Doesn't learn from history. They talk about how wonderfully educated Merkel is. Like, oh, she has like a master's degree in chemistry. She's like really, really educated. Okay. She's good at mixing chemicals to make explosives, which is, I'm sure that's her favorite pastime. She likes to drop it on civilians, or probably would rather drop chem warfare on her own population, I'm sure. She'd love to gas the AfD members, because that's, it's a long-standing tradition to just gas your opponents there. But she doesn't know anything about history. If she did, then she wouldn't be endorsing this sort of stupid bullshit. We're going to conduct surveillance on the opposition party. By the way, it's very funny when Americans love Merkel, because the liberal Americans who love Merkel will overlook this despite... Can you imagine if Trump said, well, we need to conduct surveillance on, like, the libertarians and the Green Party? They would cry tyrant, they would rally on the White House lawn and clamor for impeachment. Oh my God, he really is a fascist. It's horrible. This breaks the spirit of liberty entirely. They pretend to care about freedom and privacy for a while. Well, yeah, exactly. What do you think... Why is the German establishment preparing to conduct surveillance on large swaths of its own population? Because of their political affiliation. It's the same stupid propaganda as here, where some random YouTube creator, they say, yeah, I want to build a wall on the border. Oh my God, you're a Nazi. It happens all the time. It's happened to me. It happens to people that are way further left than me on many issues. So yeah, it's a bunch of bullshit. That's about all. Peace out.